Is Mark Cordone, Golden Microphone, episode 1-3. We are not canceled. Do you know why? Because I get to produce and set the show. No one cancels me around here. And we've had 12 amazing guests, and we're going to make it a baker's dozen, a lucky 13 today with our guest, Tricia Brouk. Tricia Brouk, New York City. You got to hear this, y'all. Executive director of TEDx, Lincoln Square, writer, producer, choreographer, coach. What am I missing, Tricia?
I'm also a filmmaker. I make documentary films, and I write screenplays and sitcom pilots. And I love telling stories and helping people tell their stories, whether it's from the stage or from the screen. And I get up in the morning because I know that your story is important. And if I can help you tell it, then my life is complete.
That is so freaking awesome. I can't wait to talk to you today about telling stories, because all of us have our stories, right? And being able to tell our stories on some of the grandest stages of them all. What is history except for us being able to pass down stories and stories and stories? What are some of the greatest times in the world where innovation happened? When someone found some sort of soapbox that they could stand on, and there was an audience, and pure innovation happened in that moment. Mindsets shifted. And I can't wait to talk to you about how each of us can take our stories and create that sort of movement on the biggest stages of them all. Now, before we even go into that, if y'all haven't met me, my name is Mark Cordone. I'm a positive psychologist. So what that means is optimal human functioning, whether it be writing a speech, whether it be you as a roller derby player, whether it be me giving a speech in Miami this weekend, optimal human functioning. That's one thing that I look at. And then the other thing that I look at in terms of coaching is optimal feeling, optimal happiness. So if you feel good and you function well, if you feel good and function well, that's what I try to replicate in everybody. So anybody out there who's feeling good and functioning well today, can you give me a heart? Can you give me a heart if you're watching live or if you're watching on the replay? Thank you, Tricia. Thank you, Brookie. Tricia gave me the heart. If you're feeling okay, it's all right. It's all right to get out of bed and say, you know what? It's not the best day. I'm feeling a little bit sick, but you're pushing through right now. Give me a thumbs up. It's okay to have those days. Give me a thumbs up. And then if you are feeling beyond resilient today, if it's not just you bouncing back on life, but you are taking life and running with it and taking the offensive on it, give me a big wow face. Tricia, can you give me a wow face? Wow. This is the best. This is the best. We're gonna have a lot of fun here today. Tricia, before you give us your tips, I just need to start out. What's your story?
My story. Well, first, let's go back a second, because I want your listeners and your viewers to know that when we first started talking, you asked me if I remembered meeting you in New York. And I said, of course, you are a love bomb. So I think that's something that your tribe should start to refer to you as, a love bomb. Absolutely.
Oh, the love bombs. Yeah, it was awesome meeting you in New York. I mean, there were so many people around you that I didn't remember if you remembered me. So I just need to ask you. So,
Of course. So my story, Mark, I grew up in Missouri and moved to New York City to pursue a career in dance, and became an entrepreneur because I had no interest in being a starving artist. I did not think that was sexy in the slightest. Okay. So I started a fitness company. And that fitness company is 27 years old today. It still exists, and it gives me the opportunity to pursue other things like producing theater, writing film. And a little over a year ago, one of my dear friends, Petra Kolber, who followed me and loved my work as a director, said, I just got asked to do TEDx Syracuse. Would you want to work with me? And I thought, how amazing would that be? I can work with you just like a one-woman show. I can do script analysis with you. I can direct your intention and make sure that you're speaking the words that you actually want to speak. And so we worked together, and it was fantastic and fun and inspiring. And she planted a seed. You should really do this for other people. And I thought, okay. So I started the Big Talk. And from there, I had zero credibility in the world of public speaking. I was working with actors, zero. I was just working with actors, just in show business, running my company. And so I had to start out creating a platform where I could teach people that I knew what I was talking about. And how I did that was creating a podcast. So the Big Talk is where people could listen to how I work, listen to me interviewing other speakers, get tips on how to do this. And then I started creating content and doing interviews and getting clients. And all of a sudden I had all these amazing clients with all these incredible stories, and I had nowhere to put them. So as a person who produces theater and shows, I had to put on a show. So I applied for my license for TEDx. And then I put on a show. So you
have to get a license to do to executive produce it.
You do.
What does that application look like for to get a TEDx license?
You have to answer many questions. One is, what is your idea? What is your event about? Is there a theme? Where do you want it? What is the community that you want to reach? What do you want to call your event? And of course, the first title that I came up with was TEDx Broadway. Well, that had been taken. So I had to go back to the drawing board and come up with 3 new names, 3 new themes. I had to identify the kinds of talks that I would imagine being at my event, describe what it looked like, described what I would hope for. And we went back and forth several times. They were very much rooting for me. And then in November, I got the call. I was TEDx Lincoln Square organizer. And at that point, I was so excited because I knew that I had an opportunity to give speakers a platform to make great change in the world. So that's when my dear friend and visibility strategist, Jamie Broderick, reached out to me, and she said, how can I help? And at that point, I didn't know because I'd never produced a TEDx event before. So I said, why don't you co-produce the show with me? And what's so great about our marriage and our partnership is that I'm the creative behind the scenes. I put the show on. She gets butts in seats.
Okay.
So she had our event sold out. The first event, we produced it in 4 months. This year, yeah. Remember how we met? We had just talked 3 hours ago, and now we're doing this?
Yeah.
So that's sort of like the TEDx experience. I received my license in November, and we put a show on in March. So
a sold out show.
It was sold out 6 weeks before the event.
Yep.
And this year, we started the process in September for a March show. And it gave me a little bit of extra time to go over all the applications because I read every single word. So she's in charge of filling the seats and all the social media, the visibility and the marketing. And I'm in charge of the creative part. What Broadway singers I'm going to bring in, what the show looks like, what kind of music, what kind of speakers, what the ideas are, what the theme is. And we have such a great collaboration because we're both really good at 2 different things, and we stay in our lanes.
That's awesome. Well, in hearing about the first TEDx in Lincoln Square, I'm like, I didn't hear this was like just I wouldn't say any other TEDx, because every TEDx is amazing and unique. But I had heard that this was closed to a standing ovation, and you had some singers on there. Can you talk about how that thing closed? Because I don't know if that's the norm to have Broadway singers on. Well,
I think having interviewed all of these TEDx organizers in season 8 of the Big Talk, what I realized was we are all creating incredible events. And so because I come from a theater and a film background, I've also got 2 films in my event this year, specifically made for the theme Looking Beyond. But last year's theme was risk takers and change makers. So I knew that I wanted to have Sam Cooke's song, A Change Is Gonna Come, close the show. So my husband happens to be a Broadway singer, and we also have a good friend who's in Hamilton. So Nick Walker and Joe Ricci sang A Change Is Gonna Come. as we brought the speakers onto the stage. And it was so magical. We got a standing ovation.
Yep. That is absolutely fantastic. I actually want to talk to you a little bit more before we go forward, sort of about Tricia when you came to New York City as an inspiring dancer, if that's all right.
I would love to.
Now, you came as a dancer, and did walk us through what was going through your mind. Were you coming into town sort of, like those stories with it's a fresh new face and they're coming into New York City, or they're going into a place like LA or New York, and they've got the 2 suitcases and they're like looking around, they're like, I'm gonna make it? Or did you come in already knowing, I've got to make sure that I've got this entrepreneurial piece to me?
I came in knowing that I had to be badass in order to make it work.
Okay.
And I had been to New York many times before because my teacher growing up brought us to New York City for convention.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Arnold, Missouri, which is 20 miles south of St. Louis.
Right on.
Yep. I'm a Midwest girl.
Right on. Okay.
But I was born knowing I would live in New York. I had posters of Baryshnikov on my wall like any other dancer. And I actually worked with Baryshnikov. So talk about manifestation.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
So I moved here knowing that I was going to not move back. There was no failure. There was no, I'm going to go back to Missouri if it doesn't work out. This was it. It's what it always was. And I was going to succeed. What I didn't know is that my journey would take me on all these turns. And that's why I always say yes to things, even if it isn't something I have any skill set in, like public speaking. Somebody plants a seed and I figure it out, or I get the help, or I do my research. But saying yes to possibility is what creates new roads to go down. So my career as a dancer was extremely fulfilling. And I knew that I wanted to continue being in the performing arts, which is why I transitioned organically into the writing and directing part.
Okay. Now, during your career, has there ever been a time when your mindset has either faltered or a gremlin has creeped up, and that idea that I'm just not going to fail at this? I'm not going home, or I'm not going back to Missouri. I'm coming here and I'm going to be successful. Has there ever been a time where you're like, oh boy, like?
Definitely. And
Okay.
Mark, I want to share this with you and with your audience, because fear is something that we all have. It's how we respond to it that makes us unique. So when I was auditioning and constantly not getting yeses and not getting chosen for dance companies, and I really, really wanted to get into the Paul Taylor Dance Company, and I was on scholarship there, and I was being what's the word I'm looking for? I was being groomed to become the next Paul Taylor dancer, and I didn't get it. And I thought, my dream has been shattered.
Okay.
Who am I? What's my identity? How do I go on? And all of that was real, and all of that was painful. But any and every time these obstacles make their way into my life, I simply pivot. Okay, so what's next? And I might spend a day feeling really badly, but I get back on that horse and I figure out what's next. And what's next might not be continuing to pursue dance. It might be, I'm going to be on the other side of the table. I'm going to be the one holding the auditions now. Yeah, that's about right. I think I'm going to do that.
I love this idea of pivoting, but I also love the idea that that sort of being resilient and gritty has nothing to do with you ignoring that feeling of, crap, I just worked my ass off, and you know what? I need to like feel the feels for like a day, or like however long it takes, and I know I'm going to take action again, and there's going to be maybe a change in the a temporary change in the trajectory, or there's a wall that got suddenly put up in front of me, and I'm like we were talking about in Beyond Resilient Group. I've got a group of people who can help me above that wall, or I'm going to take a circuitous route around that wall. I'm still getting there. I'm still getting there. That's awesome. That's awesome. So I want to go back to something else you said. say, you always say yes to possibility. What does that mean?
If you don't know the answer to something, often we say no because we don't want to be made to look dumb or embarrassed. But ultimately, if we say yes to something, it creates the opportunity for what's possible. I said yes to John Turturro when he asked me if I would choreograph a feature film with James Gandolfini, Kate Winslet, Bobby Cannavale, Christopher Walken, Steve Buscemi, Eddie Izzard. I didn't know if I could do that, but I said yes, and then I went home and I did my homework. And I showed up every day prepared, and I knew I had this opportunity and I had to nail it. So, was I scared? Yes. Did I do my work so that I would succeed? Absolutely. And I reached out to people who I needed to ask questions. What does it mean to be on a film set? What does speed mean? Oh, that means sound? Okay. I did my homework because I didn't know anything. And I was given this opportunity and I was going to say yes to it because that created possibility for my future.
That is so awesome because so many people can get crippled with fear or crippled with this feeling that they're phony. You know, I said yes to something and I don't know what speed means right now, right? But then also at the same time, that fear can so stop you from working with, I mean, you just told me you worked with Christopher freaking Walken. I mean, is he, by the way, is he as amazing in person as he is like everywhere else?
What's amazing about Christopher Walken was he never came to one rehearsal. So what? I showed him on set the choreography a couple of times. He watched me, and then he did it. It was amazing.
I think that's a great thing for us. Not only, you know, she went from saying yes and then doing her research to standing next to Walken, who just picked up her choreography, right? And I think with so many of us, whether you be someone who is doing any kind of performance, and to be quite honest with you, everyone is doing a performance. Whether you are in athletics, whether you are a father, because of the role, you are doing a performance. And so sometimes, because of the fear, we will feel something like imposter syndrome. Should I be here right now? I don't know the word. You know, I don't know the lingo. I don't know the jargon. I don't necessarily, I didn't do stuff like this before, but still being able to say yes to that opportunity. Now, I would also come back and say, there are plenty of people that would say, know your boundaries and say no. Where does saying yes and saying no, like, how do you view that?
I view that as I have said no to many people who ask me to go to events that happen after 6 o'clock at night because I'm saying yes to myself.
Okay. Gotcha. So with that said, are you ever really saying no, Brookie? Because if you're saying,
I think if there's a situation where I'm not being treated with respect or I'm not given the opportunity to sit at the table, then I will say, no, I don't want to work with you.
So that's actually going exactly with you saying yes to opportunity. Because if you're sitting at a table and you don't see opportunity, that's actually an illusion. You're just sitting at a table. You're not saying yes to opportunity. So I see exactly what you're saying there, Tricia. That's freaking awesome. That's awesome. Now, I would also go and say you've pivoted a couple times. You know, and you talked about pivoting from your dance career and then working behind the scenes. What would you also say have been some of your most peak pivotal moments in your life? Like, if I were to go through and narrate your story right now, or we were to write your story, what would be some of the top 10 times where you went and experienced something, or no, I wouldn't say 10 times, right? But give us a time in your career that it was just, this is amazing, and it changed your life forever?
Well, I think choreographing Romance and Cigarettes was a big one.
Which you also got a, is it a Golden Thumb
Yes,
award?
Roger Ebert's thumb.
Roger Ebert gave a Golden Thumb award. Congratulations on that. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And then when I became a director, I realized that I had this incredible responsibility to create safe space for my actors and my performers. And at that point, it became a really big deal to me. I had always been on the other side, so I knew what it was like to be treated a certain way. So when I was now, and we talked about this, on the other side of the table, I made it my mission to never treat anybody without respect and to always create an environment of safety so that the work is what you can focus on in the room, not anybody's ego, not anybody's feelings. You're dealing with very intimate experiences of acting and moving and sharing ideas. So I was able to create this environment of safety with all of the work that I was doing on the other side. So as a director, then I became very responsible with my work. So that was a big shift for me. I saw the potential in helping people be their best selves. And once I became a director, people started asking me to direct things and they would have ideas. And I thought, well, that's a great idea. Well, I need a writer. And because I'm very impatient and I make things happen like this, I just decided to start writing my own work. And then that was another transition where I thought, oh, wow, I get to actually choose the words my actors are saying. So now I have an entirely new level of responsibility. And I wrote a musical called Committed, which is about mental illness. The music and lyrics are by Andrew David Sotomayor. And I realized that I have this incredible opportunity to destigmatize mental illness through song and dance. So I had this new responsibility. So those are my big ones. And then when I moved into speaking and teaching people to take big stages, I was just applying the same mindset. I create a safe space. I make sure that you feel vulnerable so that your real story is being told. And then I help you tell it. I give you the confidence and the tools so that you can actually do 8 shows a week, if you will.
Yeah, and that is such a great thing right now, because I think I think I might have said this to you in New York. Vulnerability is the new punk rock. It's but also at the same time, when done out in the wrong context or done in a space where there can be energy drainers, someone can go in, be vulnerable, and that could cause mild trauma to people. So the idea of creating safe spaces, the idea of even creating a safe space for anyone to get into flow and not be self-conscious, I feel is a big deal. It's a big deal for me when I'm working with my clients, that they feel like it's not that they feel like this, it's a safe space. It is a safe space, period.
Right. They know.
Yeah, they know it's a safe space. Okay, so we've got some things going on here when it comes to becoming the speaker you were meant to be on the stage. Now, why did you choose this one this morning? Because we could have done anything. Why is that important for you to talk about with us?
Because I want your audience to believe in themselves. I want them to really hear me say, your story is important. And if you become the speaker you are meant to be on the stage, you have the potential of changing thousands of lives, making the world a better place, and having global impact. So that's why I get up every morning to make movies and write shows and to put on shows, but also to help speakers become who they are meant to be on the stage.
That is absolutely fantastic. We did talk a little bit, like 10 seconds before the show started, about if you could provide some tips, and you were like, yeah, absolutely. So I would like to just jump right in and talk about those tips, Tricia.
I would love to. Public speaking can feel terribly overwhelming and nebulous. How do I start? What do I talk about? Do I sound like an idiot? Is my idea valuable? All of those things it plays on constant record on our brains. So I want to just give you some tangible things that you can think about. First, you want to know who your audience is. You want to understand who you're speaking to so that you can speak directly to them. It's just like having your avatar. You have to know who your client is. You also have to know who your audience is. Then you want to find out who the event organizer is before you pitch them. For example, we talked about this in New York a little bit, Mark. If you're pitching me for TEDx Lincoln Square, I want you to pitch me a talk about how air guitar can change the world. That turns me on because it is so unique and it's creative. I want somebody to blow my mind. I've heard a lot of ideas. So get really creative and really understand who you're pitching to. The next thing you want to do is never pitch your book or your business. And that doesn't mean that you can't talk about what turns you on and what you believe in as an entrepreneur. But I want you to think about the idea that gets you excited, not your book and not what your company sells. Go back to why you started your company and why you wrote your book. And that will be the idea that you can pitch an event organizer.
Tricia, just hearing these first three, I think one of the things that can happen when we're constructing our story, and not that there's anything wrong with it, because when I was writing a book, I got totally absorbed in my story, Mark's story. And then suddenly when I was holding this book, it was like, hey, I want you guys to read my book, versus coming out and thinking about what is it that the audience is hungry for? What is it that the event planner is hungry for? Versus me getting on stage and wearing a t-shirt of my book, right? And being like, hey guys, and in the back of my mind, all I can think about it are book sales.
Right.
I think the idea here is there's a certain servant mindset to the first three things that you're approaching.
Absolutely. And if you're being specific with TEDx, it's a gift, not an ask.
Love it. Love it.
It's an idea, not an issue. So those are very specific phrases that Chris Anderson coined, specific to TED.
Awesome.
And then if you want to go further into these sort of nuggets, you want to make sure that your idea is told through your point of view. And what I mean by that is I could talk about the earth being round. We all know that. That's not new information. But because I am me and there's no one else like me, I tell it through my point of view, and then it becomes unique and fresh.
That is fantastic. And everyone's got a unique and fresh take on the world. That's right. Great. Yep.
And then this is really, really important. If you're at the stage where you're going to take the stage, never rehearse alone. I've seen this happen many times. You rehearse in front of the mirror. You think you're amazing. You've got it all down. You know exactly how you're going to hold your hands and make your facial expressions. And you get on stage and your body betrays you. You get dry mouth. You start sweating. You're sick to your stomach. There's people looking at you. You've never rehearsed in front of anyone before, so you don't know what to do. So you have to start rehearsing under mild stress. And mild stress might be your family. Increase the stress. Colleagues, increase the stress a little more. Your church group or your synagogue or a place where there's a community. Increase that stress over and over again so that you know what to do when your body betrays you, because I promise you it will.
I think that's such a great point there that I have to jump in on that. And as a coach who works with, I'll work with elite athletes, right? And they're like, I'm doing everything that I need to do in practice. And then all of a sudden during our bouts or during our games, I look out and like, I'm tired, I'm sweating, like I'm shaking. I can't think about performing it or playing anymore. Same thing. I have a few people that I work with who are artists the same way. Like when I'm in my bedroom, Mark, like I can perform, like it sounds so good. But then when I actually go to perform, it's different. And like, The dry mouth is something that comes up a lot. And I don't know about what you think about this, but I attribute it to that pressure, the mild pressure, and then raising that pressure, raising the stakes. Because when you're actually performing on the biggest stage of them all, you have to be used to your body responding to that, to those mild stressors. That is awesome. That is awesome. So are these things that you picked up? Are these things that from the school of life, from when you moved from Missouri to New York and through the ups, downs, and all arounds of your life? Is this something that you found through research? Talk to me.
Well, I've been on stage my whole life. So yeah. I know what it means to walk out there and to forget. I know what it means to walk out there and to not be warmed up. I know what it means to walk out there and to own the audience. So I know exactly what it feels like when you're in flow and when you own the audience and when they adopt your idea as their own. And I know why, based on literal experience, actual experience. So I think that knowing your audience is exactly how I approached performing. I knew if my audience was close, I was going to make eye contact with them. If they were far away, I was going to emote beyond the balcony. And so if you're giving a talk to a TEDx audience, you can be sure that they are open arms. They want you to succeed. If you are giving a monologue in front of a theater audience, you can pretty much guarantee their arms are crossed and they want you to prove it. So that means you're going to have to go out there and earn their trust a different way.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that there's something about rehearsing under that pressure. I even for my PhD students that I talk to about when they're defending their dissertation, right? They have their points, but really visualize defending that dissertation. And when you're practicing, play full out.
Yes.
Go full out, right?
Yeah. Marking is death. You cannot mark because you will inevitably mark on stage. You have to be full.
And what do you mean by marking?
Mark means half out, half full. Just sort of going through the motions, not doing anything full out. That's what we call in dance when we're going to mark through something.
Okay, awesome.
Or I used to say I'm going to Mark Wahlberg through something. Thank you for getting it.
I hope you don't go back to New York, or I hope you don't go to your next clients and go, yeah, don't Mark Cordone that one. Unless it's a really good thing. It's a really good thing. But I would throw this out there now. You're working with folks on this. How can we get in touch with you? What are great ways that we can continue to follow up with this?
Well, you could download a free ebook called The Art of the Start. It helps you get started, which is the scariest part of this whole thing. And you can find that at thebigtalknyc.com/start. And I also offer 2 courses. One is called The Art of the Big Talk, which is a 7-week course on how to identify and craft a life-changing talk. And I'm also offering a new course, which I'm really excited about, and it's still a secret, but it's about how to pitch organizers, get your objective from the audience, and put into action with techniques that I use with my actors, how to get what you want from your audience.
That is absolutely awesome. And we can find all of that on thebigtalknyc.com.
Yes.
You want the complimentary book? Remember to add /start to it. Thank you for offering that book. And we talked about it before, like sometimes, and especially if you've been in an industry where you've been told 10, 15 times, no, you're not a good fit for our organization. Whether it be you're going through an audition process, or with some coaches, looking for the perfect client, and you're getting a bunch of no's. That activation energy is still a big deal. And to give The Art of the Talk as a complimentary gift, I thank you, Tricia.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
I want to give you one more gift. Can
yes.
I give one more gift?
Absolutely. Gifts are good.
So I want to give all of your viewers a 15-minute free call with me. because I want to make sure you understand how important your story is. And you can sign up for that at thebigtalknyc.com/15.
Let me write this down, bigtalknyc.com/15.
15.
Y'all, a complimentary chat with Tricia. She just offered it up. Holy moly. Go to the site. It's amazing. I'm like trying to take it down myself because I want that complimentary session with you as well. That is freaking awesome for anybody who's looking to bring their story and succeed on the biggest of stages. You also have a podcast that's about to go into its next season, don't you?
Yes, we are in season 7 of The Big Talk on iTunes. Season 8 drops on March 29th, and it is all about TEDx organizers. I interviewed TEDx organizers from Aruba, Germany,
Jamaica. Ooh, sorry.
Yes, Germany, India, Nigeria. There's also TEDx Wilmington, who he actually had a salon in a women's prison. So it's a fascinating season, and it's really inspiring because I wanted to pull the curtain back from the TEDx world so that you don't feel nervous about applying and about reaching out to us, because we do want you to take our stages.
That's amazing, and I'm I'm glad that you said that sort of stigma on TEDx folks who are looking and creating these amazing events. Because when I did it, meet you in New York, I was like, oh, this is a cool person. And you're like, yeah, I'm doing a TEDx. I was like, deer in the headlights for about 3 seconds. I was like, oh my God. Like, so I'm so happy that you have this iTunes show. Everybody go to this show. And of course, give it some love, give it some ratings. And it's something like 100 and something episodes there. So I don't think you can quite do a Netflix binge with it, an iTunes binge, but you can definitely be subscribed to it, and you can definitely give it some love. So Tricia knows that we're out there, we're listening, we're supporting, and we're also super grateful for the nuggets of wisdom and the free 15-minute conversations that you're offering up with us, Tricia. That is so amazing. Tricia, I hope we get to continue this conversation. And maybe when you get to like episode 900, you're going to remember this redheaded Asian, and you're going to pull me over to that podcast, because that would be something that I would love to be behind the scenes on with you. Yeah, I just invited myself. Sorry.
You are more than welcome to join me on the Big Talk. Yes.
I will never say no. I said yes to it. Now, I don't know if you've seen this part of the show, but this is the reason this is called the Golden Mic, Tricia.
Okay. So
what I want you to do right now is, first of all, thank you for being on the show. For everybody who, oh no, where did you go, Tricia? Okay, so we are going to wait for Tricia to come back, because this is a big one. And remember, Tricia can be found at thebigtalknyc.com/15, or you can also go to thebigtalknyc.com and go and input the word, where is it? For the book. You're just going to have to watch the show notes, y'all. I'm hoping Tricia's going to come back. I think she's coming back. She's logging in right now.
There you are.
I knew we're not going to let you go for this part, because this is the part of the show that we call the Golden Mic, Tricia.
Okay.
I had the opportunity to plug your site a couple times while you were gone. I want you to visualize now, just like you do for all the people you empower with that stage. Okay. I want you to visualize a golden microphone is dropping from the ceiling. I don't know what kind of mic you're envisioning, like maybe one of those old school, like 50s mics, with the grooves in it, or like this, whatever you imagine, but it's a golden microphone, and it translates into every language for 2 minutes. So the whole world is listening to you for 2 minutes, Tricia. If I were to flip the switch, which I'm going to do, what is it that you would say? Go.
I would say that the most important thing that you can do in your life, in your business, in your relationship, is be who you are, not who you think someone else wants you to be.
Oh, I saw you take another breath. Did you hear it? Authenticity. She had 2 minutes and she just needed to say it in 5 seconds, 10 seconds. Authenticity, y'all. This has been episode 13 of the Golden Mic. It was a good one. Tricia Brouk came on and talked about how we can become the speaker we were meant to be. Everybody, what is your stage? Go and take it. Step on it. And tell the story you were meant to tell. My name is Mark Cordone. We will be back. I hope you are feeling good. I hope you are functioning well. Tricia, thank you so much for joining us. I want you to like the show. I want you to send it out. We got Faith Clark that said, thanks for sharing, Tricia. This was super, super good. We got Johnny B, who followed us over all the way from Beyond Resilience, saying, oh, snap, Zilla. He's got some screenplays. Let's do this, Tricia. So it looks like he's going to take you up on that 15-minute piece. And don't forget that complimentary book and the big talk on iTunes. Let's follow you. Let's want more of her. And don't forget that the TED Talks are coming in on what day?
March 27th. We are live streaming, so you can see it for free if you're not in the city. And that's at TEDxLincolnSquare.com/live stream.
TEDxLincolnSquare.com/live stream. I'm going to put it in on the show notes. People are reacting. Continue to give her love. Continue to give her thumbs up. Continue to give the hope faces, because there's folks like Tricia that are empowering a lot of folks. Take that and run with it, y'all. Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you.